Hi everybody, Mark Harrison here, but as you've heard before, I want you to call me MH3. Welcome back to the podcast. And this is one of our series where we're going to be talking about branding, brand strategy, brand growth, brand transformation. Really excited to have one of my partners in crime here, Ryan Hughes, co-founder of Humanity. We've known and worked together for a long time. Ryan is just like, I could read his bio, but I'm just going to tell you this. Like, this guy is so curious about people. It's his superpower. And so welcome to the pod, Ryan.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here. Or MH3, sorry.
It's okay. You can call me what you want. Are you curious why I'm MH3?
I think I know the story.
Yeah, you do know the story. Don't be curious about me. I'm curious about you. Maybe a quick background on who you are and what you're all about and what makes you so curious.
Yeah, so I'm one of the co-founders at Humanity, a full-service agency here in Toronto. I think I've always just been very curious. I remember as a kid, there was a book called Canadians Eat Chicken Noodle Soup, and it just had a bunch of random facts. And it was my favorite book as a kid growing up, a complete nerd. I wasn't very popular as a kid, as you can imagine.
Right.
But just this curiosity of what made people tick just really kicked in at a very young age. And I found a career where I get to make money, figuring out what makes people tick and how to connect with them.
So is it possible that a book about people being curious about chicken soup can be more than 3 pages?
It had a bunch of facts. It was pretty hefty.
Okay. You open this can of soup. Recite one of those facts. And I know this is completely off script, but that's what a great podcast is all about. So I'm giving you a minute as I ramble here to think back into your memory archives. And even if you have to make it up and lie to the audience, just go for it. But there's got to be something you remember.
Yeah, it had facts of like how many Canadians have microwaves. So because 70% of Canadian households had microwaves.
Right.
And as a kid, I don't know why, but I found that just fascinating to be able to imagine what those households looked like and what people were doing in them.
Okay, before we jump into one last question, then fast forward to today. As a chicken soup connoisseur, which I assume you must be, microwave or stovetop?
Stovetop. 100%.
All right, there you go. Look at that. You didn't even let me finish the question. You're like, it's going to be stovetop. Let's talk a lot actually about Humanity and the way you do the work. And, one of the key tools that you built that's quite foundational, I think, to the way you approach this is this notion of a well-being framework. And I know even when the first time you sort of threw that concept at me, it took me a while both to comprehend and for you to kind of share with me, what is a well-being framework? What does it mean? How does it work? And how do you apply it?
Yeah, so the well-being framework is a tool that we use a lot at Humanity to understand how to connect people to a brand. And it's really rooted in a couple premises. The first one is that any good brand is built on really deep human truths. Great campaigns are built on cultural truths, but great brands are built on kind of these everlasting human truths, human needs. And the second premise is that the biggest universal human truth is that for the most part, as humans, we're hardwired to pursue pleasure and eliminate pain and tension in our lives. Mm-hmm. That's why we fall in love. It's why we fall out of love. Mm-hmm. It's why we consume. And the role that brands should play in our lives is to help us pursue that better belief that life can be better. And so that's the premise that the well-being framework's built on. As a tool, what it helps us do is contextualize a brand's role in that universal pursuit of well-being that humans have. And we use it primarily around brand positioning. Sometimes we use it in creative exercises. One of the examples I'll share of how we used it to really kind of pivot an organization's thinking about themselves is we have this really great client called Empower Canada. Mm-hmm. We've been working with them since day one. They are a really cool organization that offers free tech training,
right,
and a bunch of wraparound services. So they'll give you interview support, job support, and I think they have like a 80% placement rate after people go through this program. They came to us a number of years ago, our very first engagement with them. Their brief was all around intergenerational poverty. And they're like, we as an organization break intergenerational poverty. We turn people on a path of success. And we loved that. Yeah. That at Humanity, that's the type of stuff that gets us up in the morning and really gets us going. But then we started to pull away at some of the data. And one of the big things that we did was look at all of their alumni data. So we went through, we took everybody's postal code that had ever gone through a program, mapped it back to a neighborhood. We looked at everybody's household income. And what we really uncovered was they weren't really talking to people living in poverty. Who they were engaging with were either new Canadians or people from middle income households. There was a subset of people who were coming from great poverty and overcoming a lot of barriers. But what had kind of happened was those success stories had bubbled up and become, kind of myths within the organization that made them believe this is what they were doing.
Right. The urban myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a really powerful one. And why wouldn't you as an organization want to build your ethos around that notion?
Sure.
But they, as a client, were tremendously open to being challenged. And you brought them the data and said, hey, look, we actually don't think you're this transformative organization. We think you're a lot more about people's esteem. So just stepping back for a second, the well-being framework has 4 dimensions.
Okay.
We start with functional well-being, which is like an organization or a brand's most basic role in your life. So I'll use food as an example because I love food.
You love food.
I do. Functional well-being would be food's nutrition and sustenance.
Right.
Then we have esteem well-being, which is when something makes you feel agnostic of others around you. For food, it's that scoop of Haagen-Dazs or the pint of Haagen-Dazs after a really bad day.
Right. I'm lactose intolerant, so that would make my bad day better, but keep going. Can you smell it?
Then we have social well-being, which is when something connects you to others. And you can imagine how social food could be and how it connects to you.
Yeah.
And then we have transformative well-being, which is when something changes your view of the world around you. So going back to Empower, they came to us with a brief that was, hey, we're transformative.
Right.
We did the research and we came back to them with another brief that said, hey, we think you're esteem.
Interesting.
We think you're all actually about taking people who are in what we call the spin state, who are stuck watching their peers get great careers, get married, move out of their parents' house. And these people are stuck working, dead end jobs. They're part of the gig economy.
Right.
And they don't know where to go. And Empower comes in and gives them an off ramp. Gives them a pathway to a career that they could never have imagined that they could have had.
Interesting.
Every changemaker has a vision for something better. But turning that vision into action takes clarity, strategy, and the right story. This episode of The Convenor is sponsored by Humanity, a marketing leadership partner built for purpose-driven organizations. We help changemakers bring clarity to their vision, confidence to their message, and momentum to the change they're here to create. Learn more at humanityagency.com.
And the thing about the well-being framework, as I'm hearing you, is being a product or a service or company that provides esteem well-being is not negative or secondary to transformational.
Absolutely.
Like it's not a hierarchy. We're not talking Maslow here.
No,
talking
absolutely.
About different.
Yeah.
Could you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the things we always talk about with our clients is, look, like you're going to inherently have the desire to be transformative, but it's about being who you are, the best that you can be.
Right.
So if you're an esteem brand, be esteem as best as you can be. And that's where you're going to make the biggest impact. You're going to have the most success as an organization. So it's not about breadth. It's about depth.
Right. And finding that focus. And how does that then manifest itself in the way that they operate, in the way that they function internally? Because I think you made a great point earlier that this isn't just about campaigns.
Yeah.
This is about human truths.
Yeah. So one of the really neat things about our relationship with Empower is we've been able to actually take an assignment that was 6 years ago, a creative campaign, and build it into something where we actually worked with them on their organization's brand purpose.
Right.
And like, what's their ethos? What is their mission and vision? We helped craft that through our new insights and through the well-being framework. And they've basically become this incredible machine of growth that takes anybody who's stuck in that spin state, regardless of where they are socioeconomically, and helps them get out of it.
Amazing. Amazing. So as a curious person, I know that you love psychoanalytics and data, and I've heard you use some word I don't understand called semiotics. I'm probably not even enunciating that properly. All night I was up practicing semiotics. But in all seriousness, talk to us about some of these tools and approaches that you like to practice and how our listeners could also use them and leverage them and bring them to life, and maybe share some descriptions and a bit of a case study.
Yeah. So all of these tools that we use are really about building what we call mental frameworks. And for us, a mental framework is how somebody thinks about a category, not what they think.
Okay.
It's really easy to understand what somebody thinks. You could ask them, hey, Mark, what do you think about cars?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But for us to understand how you think about cars is a completely different level. And that's about how you process information about the category, your deep-seated relationship with cars. Did you have a lot of road trips as a kid? And is that imprinted as core memories? So we use these tools to create that mental framework for a category to really help us understand how somebody thinks, not just what they think. Because only when you understand how somebody thinks can you really, truly influence what they think. So we use these different tools, psychoanalytics, semiotics, behavioral science, to really create that mental framework. As far as a case study, I think one of the really cool ones that we had the privilege of working on over the past couple of years was for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries.
Okay.
So here's an organization that our role is helping them with informed gambling communication. So they also run all the casinos in the province of Manitoba.
Right.
They don't want people to stop gambling, but they want them to gamble really safely.
Yeah.
So
The balancing act for sure.
yeah, a really delicate balancing act. So we brought in to create a campaign, a strategic approach to help them understand to do this communication a little bit more effectively. Through some psychoanalysis, behavioral science, and simple things like casino tour visits, we unlocked the concept of the flow state.
Okay. Is there a W in that flow state, or is this just an FLO?
There's a W.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I know how far we're going here.
No, so you walk into a casino environment. Everything's designed to put you into this hyper-focused state,
Right.
where time, goes away,
Right.
where your inhibitions go away,
I get it.
where your rational thinking goes away, and you're hyper-focused on what's there at hand, and that's gambling. So when people enter this flow state, it's very dangerous. And we need to communicate to individuals at that time about safe gambling practices.
Right.
So taking that insight of flow state and where people were at, we were able to build a communications framework that reached them at certain points in that casino journey. And it really started when they were out of the flow state.
Okay.
So when people were rational and thinking more concretely, how can we communicate to them? And we had a campaign that's like, hey, gambling myths aren't logical at any point.
Right.
Remember that.
Right.
Then you get into the casino environment and it's a lot more difficult. So one of the things that we uncovered was, hey, there's what we call reflective flow. So you're still in the casino, but you're away from the machines. 9 times out of 10, you're at the bathroom or at the bar.
Right.
But through really smart tactics like signage on mirrors and signage above the hand dryers, we're able to bring messaging to life that challenges the flow state or reminds people that, hey, when was the last time you went outside?
Right.
Do you know what time it is?
Right.
And kind of bring this awareness that, hey, time has floated away on me. I got to rein it in and really think about how I'm gambling.
I love that little moment of respite, and then you're saying maybe you should do a little time check.
Yeah.
And so if I've never tackled this, what would be the first thing I should do if I want to start learning how to understand how somebody thinks versus what they think? What's step one?
Yeah. So I think one of the very common ways that we think about it at Humanity is early imprinting.
Okay. Early imprinting.
So there's this concept that I hold to very dearly, that by the time, we're 21, our brains are pretty much hardwired. And then 98% of our thinking becomes subconscious, that we're not even aware that we're doing. And the early, deeply emotional exposure to a category frames how we view that category later on in life. So if you're a brand, a marketer, trying to really understand how to build a mental framework, start with how people first interact with your category. So let's take milk, for example.
Okay.
Our first experience as humans with milk is our mother's milk. Right? That within minutes of being born, hopefully you're being fed by your mother. And if not, there's other milk introduced.
Right.
You grow up as a young child, milk is given to you to soothe you. It's very nurturing. So milk from a really early stage in our lives is imprinted as nurture and growth.
Right.
And that today is how people typically view milk as a category, is this nostalgia, this warmth, this nurture.
Interesting. And you made the comment earlier about cars.
Mhm.
and I know you love cars
I do.
as much as you love food.
Yeah.
So at some point we're going to have a question about drive-thrus, just so you know. I'm going to merge these together. But how do people think about cars?
That's a great one. I haven't had the privilege of actually doing this exercise around cars. It's on my bucket list of things
Okay.
to get done in my career. But I think, there's generational shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the road trip that we grew up on
Right.
really imprints in us a very different perspective of cars than I think a lot of children today who aren't growing up on that 8-hour road trip, that 12-hour road trip. I remember as a kid doing
That
a road
6-week road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember driving to Boston
Yeah.
as a kid growing
Yeah.
up, and just that's a long trip.
Yeah.
But that imprints in you, and that creates that relationship that you have with cars. Or if you grow up like my son with a father who loves cars, he's imprinted that cars are more than just A to B.
Right.
It's a passion point. It's something that you can really love.
Yeah. Like when you make the joke in the office, are we there yet? And it falls flat. It's because this generation isn't taking road trips.
Yeah,
Like, what are you talking about? The Uber driver will tell me when we're there.
exactly.
Let's go back to Manitoba for a minute. I know one of the clients that you've worked on that's very near and dear to your heart and the agency's heart is around the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and you've done a lot of work with them. Talk to us about how some of the tools that you use and the processes that you approach things with have infused the work that you've done for the Museum of Human Rights.
Yeah. So this, I argue, is the peak of my career.
Okay.
So how nerdy can I get?
Yeah. Nerd out.
Okay.
Nerd away. Yeah.
So we have been the museum's AOR for a number of years now. Our first really big engagement with them was a rebrand exercise. So for those who don't know, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is one of the federal museums here in Canada, the very first museum of its kind in the world built around human rights. The organization's brand was built before the doors ever opened. So they built a brand story, they built, brand identity before they even knew what the contents of the museum was going to be. So like a lot of museums, it became about the architecture. 10 years later, the museum had adopted this really cool, bold vision that they don't want to just be a bunch of collections. They want to be a force for human rights in the world, an educator and an inspirer for human rights, which is so much more than architecture. So they came to us and said, build us a brand around this new promise that we have as an organization. And, I always joke that essentially the brief was brand human rights.
Yeah.
And there's no case studies
Right.
for us to rely on.
Yeah.
But we had our toolkit of methodologies. So we started with our early imprinting question. How are people exposed to human rights at a young age? And how does that form the mental framework for human rights as adults? So we went through a psychoanalytics exercise, interviewing people across this country, talking to them about early exposure to human rights. And we uncovered that, it's deeply emotional experiences, usually firsthand or secondhand, and in the classroom. So the classroom was actually, so it's the formal education on the charters of rights and freedoms.
Right.
In Canada, that really grounds people around the concept of human rights, or teachers sharing their own stories of immigration and human rights abuses. But what we uncovered was deeply emotional experiences leads to empathy. And then other non-deeply emotional experiences lead to sympathy. And sympathy is easy to move on. Yeah, it happened. I'm moving on. But empathy, you can't. You can't forget. And that leads people to a point where they can be empowered to take action for human rights. So after we had that framework in place of empathy, sympathy, empowerment, we then actually ran, and this is where we're going to get really nerdy, a really cool segmentation of people living across Canada. And we looked at how empathetic people are on a huge spectrum of human rights issues and how empowered they are to actually take action against those issues.
Right.
So we're able to identify 5 different groups of people based off of how much they care about human rights and how potentially active they could be in human rights. So that gave us a framework to take to our partners at the museum.
And could you label those groups or some of them for us?
Yeah. So we had like the core audience for the museum right now is what we call empowered upstanders.
Empowered upstanders.
Upstanders.
Okay.
So those are people who are...
So I'm not a bystander.
No, definitely not a bystander.
Okay.
They're actively engaged.
Yeah.
But they tend to get stuck in a bit of a valley of despair. So they'll witness human rights abuses and they don't know what to do. They're like, there's just so much conflict in this world. There's so much abuses in this world. What do I do?
Right.
So one of the things we're working at the museum is how to inspire them, how to move them out of that valley to actually be able to take action.
That's super cool. I cut you off there, so keep going. You're saying then you had those 5 groups, and then you took that back and started to work on.
And then we did semiotics.
Yeah.
So
I can say it. I still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So this is your chance to educate me and all of our viewers.
So semiotics is the study of the meaning behind signs, symbols, and language.
Okay.
So, I show you the color blue. What does that mean? So we did a study around the semiotics of human rights. How do you talk? How do you show? How do you design human rights?
Right.
Which is where the nerd in me, that grade 4 kid reading that book, gets really excited. And
chickens need chicken noodle soup and human rights.
Yeah, they do connect
somehow.
But what came out of that was there's 2 ways to talk about human rights. The first is connective messaging, which brings people together. And that's all about empathy and making us feel together as a collective whole. Then there's defiant messaging, which is all about empowerment and challenging the status quo, challenging the powers. Right. And that's all about moving people to action.
And to have empathy, do you need to have been a person who at one point you were a victim of a human rights situation, or back to being in grade 4, you were somehow subjugated to some bigotry or prejudice or some slighting, or is that not the case? Or you just need to have witnessed it?
I think you just need to have witnessed it.
Okay.
And I think empathy is taught at a young age.
Yep.
And what we uncovered in our research was the family unit and how it imprints for empathy and how much you feel somebody else's pain starts at a very young age. The bullseye for us is around 11, 12 years old. The brain's developed enough, but it's not developed too much.
Right.
And that's the magic for us creating empathy.
So if I'm listening to you and hearing you properly, you've taken the museum from being, if I could oversimplify, their brand before it was a building. It was a brand about a building. And now you're becoming an instigator and a catalyst. So you're in the midst of doing this research. What happens next? And where does the public end up seeing it and how?
Yeah, so we had the privilege to actually deliver a full rebrand for the museum. And that was really the culmination of all of our insights, all of our strategy was brought to life creatively that way. What's really cool, though, is the value that we've added beyond creative. So now the museum's talking about our segments when it comes to curation.
Right.
So are we talking to empowered up standards? Are we talking to bystanders? And how do we talk to them through the exhibitions that we're building? And how do we advertise to them? So it's really permeated all parts of the organization, and it's become a bit of a cultural tool that they use for all the work that they do.
And what I love about this is you made the comment earlier that, campaigns are cultural. This is fundamental to their business. Like what the product that they're actually delivering, what those exhibitions will look like and sound like, and obviously being able to resonate with the communities that they want to talk to.
Yeah.
Let's move on to, I know one of the things that you love to do and you work a lot with are, I don't want to bucket all the organizations you work with, but working with a lot of social impact groups like Calgary Housing or nonprofits like Easter Seals or Big Brothers Big Sisters. But it also seems like you tend to work with, what you and I might call like change makers.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about why that sort of work is appealing to you. And also, when you're in a situation where maybe that organization doesn't have a VP of marketing or that sort of person, how do you as an individual, maybe less so than even as an agency, tend to work with those folks and empower them to build a brand?
No, that's a great question. I think the change makers make us change makers by party. Because we have this tremendous privilege to work with people who are making huge impact in the world, we get to be part of that. And that's really amazing. So, I joke and I say the work with the museum was the peak of my career, but there's some real truth there.
Yeah, it's not a joke. I think it's amazing.
The ability to talk about human rights to an entire nation and advance educating human rights is really powerful work that, for my personal purpose, makes a lot of meaning. And then to the second part of your question of when we're working with change makers who don't have a marketer in the room, we end up doing that a lot.
Right.
A lot of our change maker clients aren't huge organizations. And there are people who just have a big vision who we're here to help clarify and bring forward and bring it to life. And in those situations, I think what helps us the most is we meet them where they're at.
What does that mean?
So we'll meet them where they're at in a couple different ways. The first way is if they have marketing experience, then we'll meet you as marketer.
Got it.
If you're an executive director, we'll meet you as an executive director and walk you through the components of a marketing campaign and what needs to happen. And then we also meet you where you're at with the needs of your vision. So if you don't know how to articulate its impact and you're struggling with how do we actually execute on this vision, then we're there to help with that as well. So we really tailor our upfront strategic process to meet our clients where they're at, ensuring that we're helping move them along this journey as effectively as we can.
So from my own research, which is primitive, but knowing that the people that probably be watching, listening to this pod will be my followers. And when I think about the people that I'm fortunate enough to share my content with online, there's a lot of not-for-profits. There's a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of social impact groups. If you're out there and you're a 10, 20, 30 person organization and you're thinking, oh, I've got all these priorities and things to spend money on, what's the value to me and my organization and ultimately my board of figuring out not just your brand, but like your purpose? Like give me the when people send out those letters, like send this letter to your boss to get approval for the conference. Give me the letter for the chair of your board. Pretend I'm the change maker.
Yeah.
I've got to go in front of my board next week and pitch. We need to do this with our business. It's not about a logo.
Yes.
What's the rationale and what's the benefit to them to undergo this transformation and really understand how people think and think about them and get to those deeper truths, maybe even going all the way back to your well-being framework?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you kind of nailed it when you said it's not a logo.
Okay.
And I think when we work with people who don't have a ton of marketing experience, when we talk about a brand, we think of a logo.
Right.
And a brand is not a logo. It is the meaning behind the logo. We talk about a brand as a promise to the difference they're going to make in the lives of people and the well-being, their pursuit of well-being.
Right.
And if you have a really well-articulated brand, it can fuel so many parts of your organization, if not all of them. Right? A well-articulated brand is going to inspire employees. It's going to help people want to come and work for your organization.
Right.
A well-articulated brand is going to help funders understand the impact that you're making in the world and want to be part of it. A well-articulated brand is going to help the people that you're there to help understand the role that you could play in their lives. So I think it's that argument that, hey, a brand's not a logo.
Right.
A brand is the promise of your organization brought to life in tons of different ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think in my little very tactical terms, hearing what you said, I think if you've got the opportunity to bring this magic elixir in that's going to drive employee engagement, increase fundraising and help your core constituents understand you better, that sounds like 3 big check marks to me.
Yeah.
You're nerdy. I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I want to tap into your brand nerdism, if that's an expression, and share with us maybe an example of a brand that somewhere out in the world that you go, like, I admire that brand and why.
Okay.
On behalf of all the nerds out there.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go niche.
Okay.
And I'm going to go local.
All right.
So I want to represent Canada on this one.
Nice.
And I want to go niche
Okay.
because I think niche brands teach us a ton, right? So right off the bat, a niche brand knows its audience exceptionally well
Yeah.
and delivers to delight them.
Love that.
And I think that's why niche brands are so successful. So I'm going to go Cabot. So Cabot, for those who don't know,
This is the third leg of the Ryan Hughes stool.
Yes, yeah.
Food, cars,
and golf.
golf. There we go.
Yes. So Cabot
I
is
sure hope your son likes food, cars, and golf.
yes, so
All right.
far.
Okay.
At least he's lying.
Because I don't
to
want to
us.
fast forward to his wedding date when he's like, I picked up ball hockey and daddy didn't care.
Yeah.
Cabot.
So Cabot, for those who don't know, is a Canadian resort company that really focuses on golf experiences. Started in Inverness, Nova Scotia, a town of 1,200 people, devastated because their coal mine closed. Along comes Cabot's founder, Ben Cohen-Dewar, sees this rugged piece of Cape Breton Island, thinks it's going to make a marvelous golf course. And he's not wrong. They created the best golf course in Canada in this little community. And what I love is today, half of that community is employed by Cabot.
What?
Yeah.
Like, give me numeric size this for me.
So it's a 1,200 person community.
Yeah.
600 people from that community work for Cabot. So a economic, jewel that they've brought to this little community. Fantastic world-class golf that everybody flies in from around the world to go. But I think there's 3 really cool things that we can learn from Cabot. The first is any great brand has to have a great product behind it.
Yeah.
Or what's perceived to be a great product.
Yeah.
And Cabot does that really well. They do 5-star travel exceptionally well. They've brought people in from Fairmont to help build out their experience from a hospitality perspective. And whether it's their properties in Canada, the US, Scotland, Norway, France, so they've grown globally. They have the best golf.
Amazing.
So they know their audience and deliver the best golf, partnered with best hospitality and best food and beverage in there. So great product. The second thing is they've built a really neat brand system. So here's something else that might blow your mind. So think about resorts, right? You've got accommodations, probably the number 1 revenue stream. Second is typically food and beverage. And that's no different with Cabot. But what blows my mind is merchandise at Cabot properties does as much revenue as their food and beverage.
Oh my God.
So people are spending thousands of dollars on quarter zips with the Cabot logo and hats with the Cabot logo so that they can say, I've been here.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Look at my status.
I'm just impressed you resisted the urge today to wear a Cabot logo. I'm not going to check your socks to see if you're fully non-branded, but I'm impressed with that.
But to me, that speaks of this power of a tremendous brand that people are literally spending thousands of dollars on merchandise that is all just a status symbol.
I think in the first rebrand meeting of my career, I remember the client saying, I'm going to use the ball cap test for the logo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you got this great brand that they built, and they've rolled it out internationally, beautifully aesthetic. So that's the second thing. You build a really powerful brand system that can house your experience.
Okay.
The third lesson that I think we could learn from them is they've turned their brand over to their audience.
In what way?
So when I was studying in school, I had this professor who brought, social media was just starting at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, brands are never going to be in control of themselves again because it's all what people out there in the world say.
Right.
And I believe that entirely. And Cabot's embraced this user-generated content approach.
Got it.
So all over their feeds, it's people's experiences, it's influencers' experiences on their courses. They're constantly reposting and resharing.
Makes sense.
When they could create the most curated, beautiful content themselves, they just rely primarily on user-generated content to tell their story. And it's beautifully done, really, really well curated. And I think they've embraced the power of their audience to create that ecosystem of prestige and that people want to buy into when they travel to these types of destinations. So there's my answer. Niche, Canadian, one of my favorite brands.
And I just think like there's an amazing rags to riches movie script here that I think could be applied. I think about the economic challenges in our country, around the world, as the world changes in kind of geopolitical orders, that if you're going to lose your auto industry, or if you're going to lose your steel industry, or if you're going to lose these other industries, how do you learn from a small town that was devastated? And ultimately that brand champion in Ben turned that town around. This is amazing. Thank you for this. I was going to ask you one last question about what keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur. But I'm wondering now, is it your golf game? Is that what keeps you up at night?
Yeah. Definitely keeps me up at night.
All right. Well, let's leave it there on a high note. All of you can envision Ryan standing on the 17th at Cabot with the wind blowing through his hair and him wearing his 19 pieces of merch because he wanted to support the business. if you want to connect with Ryan, because I'm not going to monopolize all of his time, hit him up on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest place to get him. You can also check out the Humanity Agency. He's also speaking at a lot of different conferences. But, my go-to is always kind of LinkedIn and do the hit up there. And fun fact, a lot of times people send me a LinkedIn and they say, what's your email? I don't know if you've noticed, folks, but on LinkedIn, there's this weird thing called contact info. My email's there. Is your email there?
I got to go update it now.
Oh, shit. I just busted Brian. Okay, so me and my big mouth, but hey, you know what? This is the really in me, but in all seriousness, hit Ryan up on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'd love to chat with you. All things brand, chicken noodle soup, cars, Cabot, and semiotics. Ryan, thanks for being here. And I think your insights are incredibly powerful, especially in this day and age when there's a lot of organizations out there that not necessarily can think about, how do I build a big campaign? I encourage you to kind of pull some nuggets from here and use Ryan's wisdom to your benefit.
Thanks for having me.